Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Naranam namastutyam naram cheva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam dojya dire. We're reading from Śrimad Bhāgavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 7, the sacrifice performed by Daksha, text 46.
What is it?
46. Vampuragam rasaya mahasukaro damstraya padminim viranendruyata stuyamano nadalilaya yugivir vyujaharta draigatra yakyakrato. Puragam rasaya mahashukaro damstraya padmini varanendruyata stuyamano nadalilaya yogini yujjaharta traigastrayakyakratu. Somebody, if you have it on your device, you can check. Sorry?
The whole verse in one go? The whole verse in one go?
Yeah, you can do it.
Pampuragam rasya mahasukaro damstraya padminim varanendrayata stuyamano nadalilaya yogini yuyujavattarvekatrayasrakatu.
Vampuragam rasaya mahasukaro damstraya padminim varanendruyata stuyamano nadal lilaya
Tvam, you, Pura, in the past, Gam, the earth, Rasaya, from within the water, Mahashukara, the great boar incarnation, Damshtraya, with your tusk, Padminim, a lotus, Varana Indra, an elephant, Yatha, us, Stuyamana, being offered prayers, Nadan, vibrating, Lilaya, very easily, Yogi-bhi, by great sages like Sanaka, etc. Vyujaharta, picked up. Trigatra, personified Vedic knowledge. Yagyakratu, having the form of sacrifice. Translation in purple by His Divine Grace, Abhayacharana Ravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupada Ki Jai. Dear Lord, all personified Vedic knowledge, in the past millennium, long, long ago, when you appeared as the great boar incarnation, you picked up the world from the water, as an elephant picks up a lotus flower from a lake. When you vibrated transcendental sound in that gigantic form of a boar, the sound was accepted as a sacrificial hymn, and great sages like Sanaka meditated upon it and offered prayers for your glorification. Purport. A significant word used in this verse is Trigatra, which means that the transcendental form of the Lord is the Vedas. Anyone who engages in the worship of the deity or the form of the Lord in the temple is understood to be studying all the Vedas 24 hours a day. Simply by decorating the deities of the Lord, Radha and Krishna, in the temple, one very minutely studies the injunctions of the Vedas. Even a neophyte devotee who simply engages in the worship of the deity is understood to be in direct touch with the purport of the Vedic knowledge. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 15:15, Vedaischa sarvair aham eva vedya. The purport of the Vedas is to understand Him, Krishna. One who worships and serves Krishna directly has understood the truths of the Vedas. Dear Lord, O personified Vedic knowledge, in the past millennium, long, long ago, when you appeared as the great boar incarnation, you picked up the world from the water as an elephant picks up a lotus flower from a lake. When you vibrated transcendental sound in that gigantic form of a boar, the sound was accepted as a sacrificial hymn, and great sages like Sanaka meditated upon it and offered prayers for your glorification. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Devamrita Swami Nityanamine Pracharya Purvadaksham Cha Bhakta Chara Pravinata Prarthita Pikaranyam Yasya Sarve Chite Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshtarine Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayati Grima Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinatarinam. Hare Krishna. Good morning. Monday morning is always little. We have to pay extra attention because after the Sunday feast, everybody's tired. So in the first sentence of the purport, Srila Prabhupada says that the transcendental form of the Lord is the Vedas. So we know that the Vedas are the breath of Narayana, and they are no different from the Lord, and they are perfect. They are free of defects. Whatever the Vedas say, we have to accept as truth. We may not fully understand, but we are not supposed to doubt the Vedas. When the 5th canto came out for the first time, and then some devotees, they had difficulties accepting the description of the universe in the 5th canto. Some devotees left the movement because they couldn't believe what Vedas says. And then Srila Prabhupada commented, I can understand if they doubt me, but how can you doubt the Vedas? How can you doubt Shastra? So if you doubt Shastra, then everything is lost. If the doubts are very serious, then this will destroy our spiritual life. And so here, the Lord is the Vedas. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, similar thing was explained when by the Mayavadi sannyasis, when they got converted by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When they heard his explanation of the Vedanta Sutra, they exclaimed, Veda Maya Murti Tumi Sakshat Narayana, Kshama Aparada Purve Yakalu Nindana. My dear sir, they said, my dear sir, you are Vedas personified, and you are directly Narayana. Now we can understand this. So please forgive us previous offenses, because we were not aware of your glories. We didn't know who you are. And later in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that because the Lord is the Vedas, when we serve the Lord, he gives the example of service of Radha and Krishna. When the devotees are engaged in service of Radha Krishna, then that means they are studying all the Vedas 24 hours a day, simply by decorating the deities of the Lord, Radha and Krishna in the temple. One very minutely studies the injunctions of the Vedas. This is because and then Prabhupada quotes, Vedaisha Sarvara Hameva Vedya. By all the Vedas, Krishna says, I am to be known. So the word Veda or means knowledge, and knowledge means to illuminate something. You know, you see. Therefore, in English, when we understand something, we say often, oh, I see. I see. Now I see. I see your point. And when we get this illumination, finally, then the veil of ignorance, the curtain of ignorance is removed, and then we see the Lord. We see Radha and Krishna, the ultimate form of the absolute truth. And when the devotees see Radha and Krishna and worship, serve them, that means they are in full knowledge. They have understood the conclusion of the Veda. And the devotee may have or may not have all the technical knowledge, but because he is engaged in Krishna's service, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Nashayami Atma Bhavasto Jnanadipena Basuta. With the torchlight of knowledge, I dispel the darkness of ignorance in the heart of the devotee. Therefore, Prabhupada explains, the devotee cannot be in ignorance, because the Lord will personally grant him this knowledge. Just like you may, if let's say your goal is to advance in your career, to reach this elevated position that you want to attain, you can do this by different means. Usually people try to gradually to climb up because they are very expert. They perform better and better. But if you can please somehow or other the owner of the company, and then he just picks you up and puts you in the highest position, then it doesn't matter whether you pleased all the others, all the medium managers, or have you learned all the technicalities of the job. It doesn't matter anymore, because you attained the goal. You're a friend with the owner, and then you enjoy the position that you wanted to attain. But Srila Prabhupada in Bhagavad Gita, he explains that even if the devotee doesn't take advantage of all this knowledge given in the books, still Krishna will give him knowledge. So this shows that we have to re-evaluate our material idea what knowledge is. Usually we think that sharp, intelligent people, materially speaking, they get knowledge because they study the big books and they know all the technical terms, etc. But in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains that, for example, by selfless work, you gain knowledge. You may not study the books, but you're knowledgeable, because knowledge ultimately is defined by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita as good qualities, as the qualities of the soul. When they become revealed, that means you're in knowledge. And also, so the Lord is the Vedas personified. Therefore, when the Lord appears, whatever he does is absolute, and it is all good for everyone. And all the activities of the Lord, they are example of embodiment of the Vedas, of the knowledge. And also the same applies to the pure devotees. When they act, then this is example how the Vedas are applied in a practical life. Therefore, there are two different types of Vedic literatures, Shruti and Smriti. Shruti means the laws of God, and Smriti means how these instructions have been applied in the past by great sages, by great personalities, and what results they attained. Therefore, Smriti means the living Vedic tradition. Just like in the judicial system, you have a law, and then you have the practice, the precedents, the practice of the court. That means how the law has been applied by the different courts in the history. And this is the American system. The European system is a bit different. But as far as I know, you have to just to make sure, to prove that the case that is at hand now is identical with the case in the past. And that's all you have to establish, because the decision has been already taken. There was a bona fide court judge in the past who has resolved this case already for you. So in the same way, we are following the example of the great devotees, and therefore the great devotees are put into difficulties by the Lord. This is one of the reasons. So that they can show us how to be Krishna conscious even in the midst of the greatest calamities, the greatest difficulties. Therefore, Arjuna was put into trouble. Therefore, Maharaja Parikshit had this problem. I mean, this was not a problem, it was Krishna's mercy. So that we can learn from them how the Veda is applied in practical life, because this is the meaning of, this is the goal. The knowledge shouldn't remain just theoretical. We're supposed to take this knowledge and apply it in our life. And how the knowledge has been applied. What do you do when you have only 7 days left in your life? What do you Okay. So the great devotees, they give example how we apply the teachings of the Lord in our life. And therefore in Shastra, in Mahabharata, it is stated that Mahajanayena Gathasa Panta. By speculations, by applying our logic, it is very difficult to ascertain what is the Siddhanta, because our cognitive abilities are very limited, especially in Kali Yuga. And even if we come up to a conclusion, then later on somebody else who has better brains than us will establish different conclusion. And then somebody else will disprove him. And then, therefore, Tarka Pratishtanat, by logic we cannot understand, by materialistic speculations. And therefore the great sages, they established through their example the proper application of Shastra. And therefore Abhideya, the process of the method, the process, is the central feature of our devotional service. Radha Govinda Dev Ki Jai, they are the deity of Abhideya. Therefore this place is the place where we have their blessings to engage in devotional service. Abhideya Tattva. So here, the Brahmanas, they speak about the past millennium, long, long ago, when you appeared as the great boar incarnation. So I wanted to speak a little bit about this incarnation of the Lord, Varahadev. Because here he is singled out as the Vedas personified. Specifically this incarnation. So what happened? Yeah, one moment. Hare Krishna. Hare Ram. So the story goes, Hare Krishna. When Manu appeared, then what he did, he and his wife, they offered obeisances to Brahma, Manu's father. And Manu asked his father, his authority. You're the father of all living entities and the source of their substance. Please order us how we may be able to render service unto you. This was the question. And because Brahma, a little prior to that, he had a little different experience with the four Kumaras. They didn't have the same kind of approach. They were ordered to do something, but then they refused to follow the order. Of course, for higher purpose. It was not sinful. But Brahma became nonetheless angry. Then Shiva appeared. And now, when he heard how Manu approached him, he was very pleased, you can imagine. Finally, Brahma explained that this is the proper attitude of a son and disciple, of course. In general, of the inferior, the proper attitude towards the superior persons. So Manu also said that, please tell us what is my duty so that I can attain fame in this life and progress in the next life. In other words, the authority, he should advise, he should give instructions for the benefit of all, but especially for the benefit of the follower. And then Brahma, he was very pleased. And Srila Prabhupada in the purport, one of the purports, he says that if the son is unreservedly willing to be guided by the father is 10 times more eager to instruct and guide him by all means. So the father and the son relationship, as exhibited here in the dealings of Brahma and Manu, is excellent. Both the father and the son were well qualified. And their example should be followed by all humankind. So Brahma was very pleased, and here in the purports, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that those who have envy, they cannot do this, what Manu did. So envy means you don't want to, why should we follow your order? This is envy. I know better than you. And then Brahma's instruction was, please protect the pragya, and if you protect them, I'll be very pleased. So Brahma didn't ask something for himself. This is why we are reluctant to surrender to authority, because we think that Atmavan Manyate Jagat, we think that somebody will exploit us, somebody will, or he's not qualified in other way. But Brahma asked from Manu to perform his duty. This is how the authority protects the dependents. The protection is given by engaging the dependents on their prescribed duties. This is how they advance in life. First of all, you explain what are their prescribed duties, and then you make sure that they perform their duties. This is for their own benefit. And then when Brahma explained what are the duties, then very interestingly, Manu asked, please lift up the earth because I need a place to perform my duty. So that's very significant, because when the authority gives the duty, he should also make sure that the dependent has all the facilities to perform his duties. You cannot just give the duty and job done. In Ramayana, when Bharata when Bharata came back from, he was visiting, I believe, his uncle. And then he came back and he understood that Ramachandra has been exiled. Then his mother, she hoped that Bharata will be sympathetic and he'll be happy. Bharata was very unhappy. He was devastated. And then Ramachandra's mother, when she saw him, she kind of suggested that maybe Bharata was also part of this plot. And Bharata was even more aggrieved. And then, for a long time, he pronounced many curses. And this is the Supreme Lord. So this is another meaning of the Lord is the Vedas personified. But because whatever the Lord speaks, directly the Veda. So Bharata, in one of the things he said, was if somebody agrees and approves that Ramachandra is sent to exile, let the curse of, and then he listed several sinful activities, and let the curse of the result of such and such activity go to this person who approves the exile of Rama. So one of the things he said, the sinful activity performed by authority, by a king or by any type of authority who engages the subjects in service without properly giving him facilities for this service, let the sin of this go to the person who agrees with the exile of Ramachandra. So It's a sinful activity. No matter who you are, if you're in this position and you engage somebody and you don't give him facility, that's sin. So then when Brahma heard about this, he paid attention that the planet Earth is submerged into the ocean, the Garbhodaka ocean. And then he thought for a long time what to do. And then at the end he considered that, well, the Lord, let us pray to the Lord. The Lord, he has to help us. Let him deal with this. And then Varahadev appeared as a reply, as a result of this. And so here, how Varahadev is the personified Vedas, personified sacrifice. Hare Krishna. O Lord, your form is worshipable by the performances of sacrifice. But souls who are simply miscreants are unable to see it. All the Vedic hymns, Gayatri and others, are in touch with your skin. In your bodily hairs is the kusha grass. In your eyes is the clarified butter. And in your legs are the 4 kinds of fruitive activities. Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport about these miscreants. In the estimation of Śrimad Bhāgavatam, these men, who are those men? They do not believe in the incarnation of the Lord. What to speak of the Lord's incarnation as the worshipable hawk? So these people, they are very interesting. Srila Prabhupada writes, they are in Bhagavad Gita 7:15, they are called not only miscreants but also fools and the lowest of mankind. And it is said that their knowledge has been plundered by illusion due to their atheistic temperament. So if you notice what Prabhupada did here, he summarized 7:15, but in a very special way, because there are 4 types of people. And Prabhupada kind of merged them all together in a very logical way. So they are not only miscreants, but they are lowest of mankind, Naradama, and they're fools, Muda, and it is said that their knowledge has been plundered by illusion, Maya Pakrita Jnana, due to their atheistic temperament, Asurim Bhava Mashita. So everything together. For such condemned persons, the Lord's incarnation as the gigantic hawk is invisible. They cannot see Varahadev or any incarnation of the Lord. So all the Vedic hymns, especially Gayatri, are the touch of your skin. So the Varahadev is personified Vedas, especially the Gayatri. So when you chant Gayatri very carefully, he may decide to appear in your consciousness. You can hear his roar. This is what happened when Varahadev appeared. He roared 1 time, then 2nd time, and then the great sages understood this is the Supreme Lord. So they offered prayers, Vedic hymns. And then Varahadev looked at them with love and affection, and then he roared 3rd time as a reply. So it was this exchange between the Lord and the devotees. And then the eyes is the source of the clarified butter, the ghee. And your legs, in the commentary, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says that they praise Varaha as the form of sacrifice in 4 verses. Chaturhotram refers to the 4 actions of the Hotra, Advaryu, Udgata, and Brahma. So these are the 4 priests that perform traditionally the sacrifices. And the 4 legs of Varahadev represent these 4 priests. The Hotri, who pours ghee into the fire. Then Advaryu is the priest who arranges the sacrificial arena. He builds the kunda and does all the technical logistics. And then Udgata is the person who chants the mantras. And Brahma is the priest who supersedes and supervises, and whenever there is some discrepancy, he explains what is the prayashchita, how this can be counteracted. So in the Shastra, in the Shastras it is explained that they also follow the Sambandha Vidaya Prayojana. At Dvaryo, he builds the kunda, and then the Hotri, he invites the demigods or the Supreme Lord, and then the Udgata, he chants the mantras which please the demigods or the Supreme Lord. So this is the Prayojana. So, and then in the next verse, it is stated, "Oh Lord, your tongue is the plate of sacrifice. Your nostril is another plate of sacrifice. In your belly is the eating plate of sacrifice. And another plate of sacrifice is the holes of your ears. In your mouth is the Brahma plate of sacrifice. Your throat is the plate of sacrifice known as Soma. And whatever you chew is known as Agnihotra." So in this way, the Lord is glorified as the Vedas personified, as the sacrifice personified. And when we know the Lord, then we know everything. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains, "Vedeshu yageshu tapasku chaiva daneshu yat punya palam pradishtam atyati tat sarvam idam viditva yogi param stanam upayadi chadyam." The devotee, he is not bereft of the results that come from yoga, from study of the Veda, from performance of sacrifice, etc., from tapasya. The devotee gets all of those results, and at the end, he attains something that nobody can get by any other process besides bhakti. He attains the eternal abode, the supreme place, yogi param stanam upayati chadyam. So, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm very grateful. Monday morning, nobody was sleeping. So, somebody would like to say something? Mataji, you want to say something?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Can you hear me okay? Okay. I guess I had two thoughts. You spoke about, forgetting exactly what you said, but you spoke about authority and like if there's not the facility given, then it's actually sinful. I had the thought that facility, and maybe you can elaborate on this as well, as not necessarily just like the physical means, but also maybe mentally, emotionally, spiritually, things along those lines. And then I had another thought. I'm taking a course right now in Waldorf education, and gave us an exercise to work on where they refer to as the naughty child. So if you're in a classroom and there's a child that's, misbehaving, instead of kind of just jumping to the conclusion like, this child is misbehaving, it actually forces us to look inside of ourselves and be introspective. Am I actually following what I'm asking them to do? If I'm asking them to, not interrupt, for example, am I interrupting myself? Am I giving the, best example that I need to be? Anyways, hopefully that makes sense, and
Yes.
just my thought.
Thank you. So I'll comment first on the second part because it just came to mind. I heard from a devotee once. He was explaining how the children, he was talking about devotees' children, they are very expert, as all children are, but especially devotees' children, they're very expert in picking up the mood. And even if you, let's say, you tell them, we have to go to the temple. And even if you go to the temple, they'll pick up whether do you actually want to go to the temple or you just do it because you're supposed to do it and to give them a good example. And this is what they'll pick up. And if you don't really want to go to the temple, they won't be inspired to go either. Although externally, you do everything right. So I guess this is connected also to your other, the first question. They're connected. What is the meaning of giving all the facilities? Ultimately, that means that we have to be pure devotees ourselves. Then they are leading people towards Krishna, and the management means, I mean, the leaders, they can also be managers at the same time. They can do both things if they're very qualified. But sometimes they are not. So one is you manage, and the other one is you inspire. And if you can do both, great. Usually in the Gaudiya Math, from what I understand, traditionally they had two figures in the maths. One was some Swami, sannyasi, who was the spiritual guide, and then they had also somebody who was very good in managing. So in cooperation, therefore Varnashrama is very important. You supposed to have Brahmanas and Kshatriyas working together, cooperating, protecting one another. Okay, Hare Krishna. Something else? Grantaraj Śrimad Bhāgavatam ki jai, Śrīla Prabhupāda ki jai, Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande. Oh, God is to assemble devotees.